Welcome to the Red Shirt Podcast with your hosts, Vernon and Nigel. The Red Shirt Podcast, by Reds, for Reds.
Hello and welcome to another Red Shirt Podcast with Vernon and Nigel. We're in Manchester. It's sunny, it's crisp, and it's fresh. And we're going to have the conversation that we were expecting to have over the last couple of weeks. Nigel, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Like you say, how ironic that, for the last few weeks you've been saying, Nigel, it's raining, it's cloudy, it's dreary. And then obviously today it's really sunny and really crisp. And obviously we've got to talk about, something that we didn't really want to talk about because we all love this guy. He is a United legend after all. But let's get into it.
Okay, so what we'll do is obviously, everybody is probably aware that Sunday morning, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was relieved of his duties of being Manchester United's manager. I'd like to bring in our guest. So making his debut on the Red Shirt Podcast, we've got the very young Mike Davidson. You okay, Mike?
I am. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Looking forward to it. Not really the podcaster I wanted to be coming on to discuss, or topic-wise, should I say. As like Nigel's already said, he's a legend, and some things work out, some things don't. And unfortunately for Ole, it just didn't work out. But I've got over the interview yesterday. It was a bit emotional. It was one of them. Yeah, it was. Washing the pots and watching it. A bit of a tear to the eye kind of moment, and. He's still dignified and magnanimous in, after being relieved of his duties. So, and he's always going to be a legend. Correct.
And I think they were very good words just to describe him as a person there, because I don't think anybody, no matter what you may think, and to all you guys that took to Twitter to try and abuse him and did abuse him yesterday or over the weekend or over the last few weeks, remember, this is a dignified, and like what Mike said, magnanimous guy. This guy's a true legend. So let's not let's not lose that, that sort of like status that he's got, and he never will do in our minds. So
well,
Nigel,
I was going to say, Vernon, I think you may be being a bit too kind there. What are you if you're trying to abuse Solskjaer? Nobody loves the club like he loves the club. You can see that he loves the club. We've always known that. Our argument was never about him per se. We would love nothing more than to continually be singing Ole's at the wheel. Yeah, but it didn't work out, and we understand that. And of course, if you're going to direct at Andy, you want to direct at the people above him. But but to go in on Ole, what are you? What are you really?
But I totally agree with you. I think what the direction that we're going to go today is obviously look at where it went wrong, and then look at the candidates for coming in. Yeah. But also as well, I think what has to be agreed is the board have to make a decision. They have to make a decision of what football that they want to be played at the club. Yeah. They've got to sit down with the likes of John Murtough, Darren Fletcher, and say, look, this is the culture of the club. This is the road that we want to go down. What manager best fits that bill? Because and if they're going to be patient, which they're saying they're going to be patient, let's go down that road. So Nigel, we'll just start with Saturday's game, which really was the last nail in the coffin, which it had been coming, hadn't it?
Well, obviously we previewed the game, and we both thought obviously we're going to win this game, and unfortunately that will mean that the club or the hierarchy will think, look, we've turned the corner, and we'd have to suffer this for a few weeks more. But I don't think any of us expected that. These players have been fighting for Ole. They've pulled it out for him when it's mattered most. And isn't it ironic that it's the guy that Ole would never give a chance to, Van der Beek, is the one that scores our goal, and the guy that Ole's literally hung his hat on is the one that gets himself sent off. And I just thought it was just so ironic. Everything about that game was ironic. It was Bruno sloppy back pass that caused their penalty. I'm thinking, and I'm like, what is going on? I mean, literally, it's one thing for Ollie to get the tactics wrong, but it's another thing for the players literally just to down tools right in front of us. And that's what it looked like to me. I mean, I don't know what you guys thought, but it looked like they were down tools in.
I mean, I'll bring Mike in. Bring Mike in. I mean, the performance on the pitch was just literally sloppy, wasn't it? And it wasn't a performance of a Manchester United team, was it, Mike?
No, and to be fair, I don't think there've been performances of a United team for a few weeks now. But at the end of the day, like a few people have said to me, in the last couple of days, the board they've kind of, it's what some people have wanted. The board have wanted to give him a chance to turn the corner, but on the same point, it's like, well, if we turn that corner per se, we're just prolonging the inevitable kind of, because it just didn't seem to be. There didn't seem to be like any plan, or once plan A didn't work, there wasn't a plan B or a plan C. You look at City, and I was only watching Match of the Day 2 this morning, and they're talking about how City have got so many ways they can cut you open. It's like we seem to, if it doesn't work through Bruno, then it's like, where do we go kind of from there? It's just, and you at the nail on the head there, Nigel. The guy who hasn't had a look in and hasn't been given any chance at all, Van der Beek. He comes on, and I made some notes on my phone, and like I messaged Vernon on Saturday, and I listened to it on 5 Live, and for me, he was the catalyst in the second half that changed it. Listening to the first half, we competed for, barring the penalty incident, we competed for the first 10 minutes. But after that, it's like, they just didn't seem to be interested, or, and the feeling I kind of got, and, watching some of the highlights and listening to some of the other pundits, and I totally agree with, it's like the players have kind of thrown him under the bus, kind of. It's there's something fundamentally broken at the minute. And I don't think it just stops with the coach, the manager, and the players. I think there's decisions above that need to be made as well. This decision they made yesterday could have been made 2 weeks ago, at the start of the international break.
I think it's quite ironic, because, I mean, I think me and Nigel on one of the pods, we discussed that it was, more likely to go at the international break, especially when you've got to take take away the Liverpool and City results. You've got to look at like how badly they played at Leicester. This is a Leicester team that's struggling. They got booed off, at half time and full time. It's ironic that, this is a manager that's a candidate for the job, that's going through.
Don't get me started on that, mate.
A run of form. But then you look at sort of like Everton, you look at Aston Villa, you look at like in the Champions League, we could have easily been beaten by Villarreal and Atalanta, especially home and away by Atalanta.
I'll just come in there, Vern. I mean, people used to refer to me as a stato, and I like my stats on that. And I wrote some stuff down here before we started. So the first 4 games of the season, home to Leeds, Southampton away, was it Newcastle, and I can't think who the other one was. We won 3 out of the 4 games. Wolves, that's it. Yeah, Wolves away. So we had 10 points out of 12. Things were looking rosy. Then we go to Bern and lose a game against a team, young boy, well, with a funny name, because they made us look like a team of young boys.
Correct.
So it was, and ever since then, it just seems to have been. I mean, looking at the results and performances wise, that game included the young boys game up until this weekend. We've played 13 games in all competitions. We've lost 7 of those 13 games. We've only won 4.
We've gained 4 points from the last 21. 4 points. Lost 5 of the last 7. So, I mean, what you're saying there is, I totally agree with you, Mike. I mean, and I think the thing is, it's kind of ironic that after the game on Saturday, a man that very rarely talks to the press, David De Gea, has come out and been so passionate in the last 2 games. I mean, he basically said that the performance was embarrassing. He used the words embarrassing. Now, you've got to take into reflection, this is a man that doesn't want to deal with the press. He's been very shy, not wanting to, be out there. But you can tell that he's feeling it. And that wasn't a performance. I mean, just before you start there, to go in there, Nigel, you made the point about Fernandes. Fernandes has gone 12 games without a goal and has been in the worst form of his United career, hasn't he, Nigel?
Well, this is it. And I think I'm glad you raised the Gay interview, because, the idea, the assertion that maybe the players down tools was not without evidence, because he came out and, I mean, he said stuff like this in the past, but this was literally a cry to the exec or to upstairs to do something about the situation. The fact that it really looked like it had gone toxic. So he was there saying it's embarrassing, but he said something else. Well, did he not say that that we just don't know what we're doing? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what we do. We don't know what to do with the ball.
We don't know what to do with the ball. That is a grenade. That is literally. We are all professionals. We get paid a lot of money to do our job. We're lions led by donkeys. Is literally what I heard. I don't know if anybody else heard that. So I thought, wow, the Gay. So not only is the performance abject, but then he comes out and really makes that point. And I'm thinking, I mean, we knew the writing was on the wall anyway. But even if you didn't know, that interview, was it planned? I don't know. But he definitely chucked a few grenades in, which could not have helped Ollie. If Ollie wanted that job, there's no way he was keeping it, was he?
Well, I think there's two things. I mean, that you the first thing that I want to raise was the fact that this is a Watford team that have lost 7 of their 12 Premier League games. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second thing was when you're watching the game, how high they pressed United, and United just couldn't keep the ball. It wasn't until Donny van de Beek came on in the second half, United were actually passing. They were going through the lines. He actually, he was playing the ball through the lines. He was having it, pulling it, round the back, and he showed what class he actually has got. I know we've been arguing, and he hasn't actually been in the best of form when he's come on. But you could see, Mike, that there's definitely a player there that can hold his own in the Premier League, can't you?
There's definitely a player there, and it's like you say, he might not have shown the best of form, when he comes on, but you've only got to look at, was it against Atalanta the other week or something? When he sent, or against City actually, when he sent him out to warm up 10 minutes into the second half, the fans give him a rousing reception. Yet then he's told to go and sit back down for another 20 minutes. Well, all the warming up he's done, and getting himself ready and psyched up to come on. Sitting down for another 20, going and sitting down again for 20 minutes. That's not good. You're not going to be able to come on and play your best football.
Yeah. Plus, further, let me add to that. Also, it doesn't help if you're all told to go on a week's holiday. Instead, you think, given that our backs are against the wall, we're in crisis mode. Get into training tomorrow. Forget about your holiday. Training tomorrow. We'll call some second and third division teams. We're going to be playing every day this week, and we're going to fix our problems. Oh no, take a week off, lads, and come back. No wonder they look lethargic and like they don't know what to do. But absolutely agree with all the comments, Mike and Van der Beek. Absolutely brilliant.
We're kind of a club in a bit of a crisis, and like you say, backs against the wall, being given time off and that, and it's get yourself into training. That for me should have been when the change should have happened. At the start of the managerial, start of the international break. The new guy comes in. He's got 2 weeks to do his new manager press conferences, media stuff, and everything. Because we all know a new manager is going to come in at some point. He's going to have press conferences. There's going to be promotional stuff. He's going to have to be introduced to everyone. It's going to take him, a couple of weeks or so to get a feel for the place, the job, and everything. Why not use the international break to get him in, get all that stuff done, and then he's got that, even if it's just a week, he's got, to work with the players before the Watford game. We're putting somebody in charge who I like Carrick. I thought he was one of the most underrated players in the Premier League in his time. But you're putting somebody in who, again, he's got less experience than Ollie had when OLE came into the job, in charge for a game that, potentially could turn our season round. It could not turn the season round. It's a huge game tomorrow night, but you're giving it to someone who's got very little, if no experience, and has been part of the last 2 coaching setups where the manager has ultimately paid the price and been sacked.
One of the reasons why there wasn't a replacement for the international break was because they hadn't had a plan B. They never thought they were going to be in this conversation. Yeah. Where they were looking for a new manager. If you think of it, we got to a final last year, got to the semi-finals of the Cup, quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and then you bring in 3 stellar signings in the summer. They didn't think they were going to have this conversation, so they didn't think they would have to have a target. So I think the problem is now is obviously they've hit. The board thought that they could, it was just a storm. They were going to look to ride the storm. The problem is now they've got this conundrum, and unfortunately, it's cost him his job. How ironic was it that the guy that cupped his ear in the international games after scoring, against Albania, basically commits suicide and ends, obviously, any chance of a comeback in that game? Because, watching the game, United had got themselves back in and had a foothold to the game.
Yeah.
And he commits suicide. And I'm kind of thinking or wondering if the next manager who comes in, Harry could seriously be looking at losing his place.
And you know what? He's the worst kind of bluffer, if you don't mind me saying. I'm not, because he's the guy that thinks he's way better than he is. And we all know footballers like this, the ones that think they're God's gift to football, and they're just not it. And they keep making the same mistake. And, if it's not trouble abroad, it's come back here, getting the captaincy, and just not being humble, not been listening to Roy Keane, who's like the best, our best captain ever, you could arguably say. Not listening to him, disrespecting Roy Keane by cupping your ears, by saying, look, you don't understand the stress I'm under. I'm not an English international. Look at me score a great goal. I know players like him, and they're just not a humble bone in their body. And he should have taken that opportunity to listen to what Roy is trying to say, but no, he sees it as, oh, Roy's after him. And so, there you go, Roy, that's for you. And now look, you know what, the best thing Carrick could do is just say, look, you need a break, mate. Get Barry in straight away, just give him a break. Get him out for 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. And let him think about what he's doing.
I think as well, another player, Mike, who I think needs a rest is Wan-Bissaka. I just think he just needs a break, doesn't he? His positional sense, his defending, somebody needs to, put him to one side and speak to him about it, don't they, at the moment?
I think he got a lot of flack in the Derby game for, was it the second goal when he didn't close Cancelo down? But for me, he was in 2 minds. He didn't know whether to go and close him down or go for the guy who out wide. I think it was Foden out wide. So for me, he wasn't. But then the other day, the first goal, the cross comes in, and he goes up for an unchallenged header. He jumps on his own, but it just literally goes up in the air. Those kind of things. If he's unsure, we're told as kids, unsure, put it out.
It's interesting. And then obviously, we get to the point where there's an emergency meeting called. I think we all kind of knew what was going to happen from them. And then inevitably, United being a PLC, had to wait till the next day till the US stock exchange is opened to make the announcement. Now, we'll come to the announcement because the announcement's a strange one, because obviously we spoke before, Carrick will take, charge of the next couple of games. And then they're looking at like an interim manager, and then they're looking at like appointing somebody, obviously at the end of this season. First of all, I'd like news guys to say, think about tell us your thoughts on that sort of like decision. And then we'll talk about obviously the main runners and riders for the actual job. So Nigel, I'll go back to you.
Well, we're a third of the way through the season. There's a lot of football left to play. So that decision just signals that we've just raised the white flag and we've just written off this season. And and you only have to look to a couple of years ago when Tuchel came in against Chelsea. It was for Chelsea, and from a team that was mediocre, everybody raises their game and they win the Champions League. So I'm like, well, okay. Number one, I don't even agree that United should never have a plan B because we're the biggest club on the planet, supposedly. So we're supposed to have a stellar board who know what they're doing and have to think through every eventuality, And so the fact that we are in a situation where we're announcing a caretaker manager, essentially, while we wait to appoint an interim manager is just, it's shocking, isn't it? It's embarrassment on top of embarrassment. We're now really beginning to see that we are really, fur coat and no knickers, aren't we? We don't know what we're doing up there. It's just embarrassing.
I think Jamie Carragher, for me, hit the nail on the head on Twitter, and you kind of just quoted part of what he said there, Nigel. He come out with we're less than a third of the way through a Premier League season, and United are indicating that they want to see it through with 2 caretaker managers. That we should never be in that position. I admit I grew up watching Fergie football because I'm not that old enough to remember some of the 8.
You're not as old as Vernon. Just come out and say it. You're not as old as Vernon.
I was born late 80s, so I kind of grew up watching Ferguson football and stuff and that. And I can accept we're never going to find another Sir Alex. Never. No one is going to find another Sir Alex. In this day and age now, modern football is you don't stay at a club 25 years or something. You look at Ferguson and Wenger. They were probably the last 2 who were going to do that. How long's Pep been at City now? Are we talking 5, 6, 7 years maybe?
And it's talk about him moving on, isn't there?
Yeah, he's there's going to be something else for him to do soon. Klopp, in 3 years' time, maybe have ambitions of Real Madrid or Barcelona. Well, not so much Barcelona at the minute, but Real Madrid. You're never going to get that 25-year manager these days. But for us to be going through a season looking at going through a season with 3 managers potentially is just astonishing. It's just it just screams of, for me, shambolic. There's just nothing. There's no. It's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. The right hand doesn't know what there's just no.
There's no continuity, is there?
Yeah, well said, mate.
There's no lead. There's no leader in the team, but equally, it doesn't seem to be like there's no one sticking their head above the parapet per se on the board and saying, right, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it, and this is the way we're going to go.
What you're saying there is correct. I mean, you look at the other 2 teams, our 2 main rivals. The one thing that you will say is that they've got their culture of football correct from top to bottom. City obviously have their board of football directors of Bergestein, Soriano. They were brought in to make sure that Pep was comfortable and that they had obviously the Barcelona way at City. Fenway Sports at Liverpool, they have what they call the committee where the board discuss the players that they're going to get that fit in to the system that Klopp wants to play. And I think that's the problem at United. And this is what I want to go on to next. What they've got to do is ensure that they make the right decision. And this is what I want to talk about the candidates. Now, obviously, there's a lot of talk about Ralph Rangnick and maybe possibly somebody like Laurent Blanc coming in and being interim until the end of the season. Now, we'll leave them alone for a minute because I want to talk about the main candidates. There is a real sort of surge now for Pochettino, and he looks like he's been put in as favourite for the actual position. How do we both feel about Pochettino? Because it looks like this is the one they're going for, doesn't it, Mike?
I liked Saints at Southampton. He did a really good job on a limited budget. With what he earned himself a higher job. I wouldn't say a top job, but a higher job at Spurs, and he did really well there. You know, he got them to the Champions League final. You know, he went to City and, you know, won in the semi-final, you know, in the quarterfinals. You know, nobody gave him a hope really. I think when was it the 2-0 down away in Ajax?
Yeah, they were
final, and they were
1-0 down from the first leg. Then they went 2-0 down, didn't they?
Yeah,
and then they won 3-2 to go away, go on away goals.
So, I mean, it didn't work for him at the start. I think last season at PSG, you know, because without being disrespectful for French football, it's kind of, you know, if you don't win the league as PSG manager, you know, you're kind of out on your ear. You know, you've got all them riches kind of. But I know there has been some rumours in that he's not happy with, you know, the balance of the team. You know, he doesn't like the fact that he's not got as much control over, you know, transfers per se and everything. There.
That's Leonardo, isn't it? Leonardo is who's the director of football, who basically has the power.
Yeah. No, not at all. And you know, we need to just put this to bed. I don't want Zinedine Zidane. I'm glad he's come out and saying he doesn't want the job, so that puts him to bed. Don't want Poch. You know, everything you said is absolutely right. Yeah, and I think with Poch, you've got the situation now where this is like an audition for United. You know, can you manage big egos? Can you manage the pressure of the expectation of having to win the league? So if anything, this is a great audition for us, and he's failing. He hates it there. He can't handle the egos, it would appear, and it seems to be he doesn't like the fact that he's not in control. Guess what's going to happen when you come to Old Trafford? The reason why they probably want you is because you're a guy that can be told, and you're not going to create much of a fuss. So really, is it a fit? It can't be a fit. Yeah. What you need, and I know you said to come back to Ralph Ragnarok, but you need a completely different mindset of upstairs. One that is a visionary, that pulls all the elements, the business elements and the football elements, and says, this is how we move going forward. It's exactly what City have. It's exactly what Chelsea have. It's exactly what any kind of, you know, elite football team has. We don't seem to have it. So to get Poch is more of the same. It's a little bit, it's Ole with a bit of technique. But will he be able to deliver? Will he be able to handle the expectation and deliver, you know, work with those egos to deliver what we want? I'm not convinced he is now the guy. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, yes, but not anymore.
The guy that I would like to see take control would be Luis Enrique.
I remember you saying I wasn't convinced at first, but the more I think about that, it's a great shout.
Luis Enrique. And I think because this is a guy that, you know, he's done his auditions, you know, he was at Celta Vigo, he was at Roma, he took over Barcelona, you know, did a great job there. He's got onto the Spanish team, which is, you know, international football a lot of the time, you know, it's kind of semi-retirement, sabbatical time, isn't it, for these guys? It's, you know, they're keeping the profile going, but if a big job comes in, then they can't, you know, refuse it.
Yeah.
I would like somebody like that to come in, the guy that, you know, was told, you know, has a culture of football, knows his culture of football, he knows where he wants to go, but also as well, Nigel and Mike, he's not frightened of the board. And I think that was the problem with, you know, Ole, was he was just such a nice guy that, you know, the board loved him. He was their appointment. He was never going to ruffle too many feathers.
Yeah, he was so grateful for the job, wasn't he?
Well, I mean, the thing is you couldn't turn it down, could you? You know, you couldn't turn it down, could you?
He said in his own interview, didn't he? Like, you know, so he played for the club. You know, he managed some of the youth teams. He then went on to be reserve team manager. You know, the next step was his ultimate and his dream job to manage the club he loved. You know, it's, you know, we're his second home in a way, and you know, for the immense pride and honour he had from going on to manage, you know, his dream job and everything. So the thing, Luis Enrique is not a bad shout. He's a very good shout. And for me, he's similar sort of mould to Pep. But I think he's another one has he not come out and said he doesn't want to come to England? Or has he said he's not quite ready to leave the Spanish job just yet?
I think that the problem that you've got is obviously because the World Cup is next
year,
winter, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a year away.
Yeah.
And, it's the same with Mancini. Mancini's different because they obviously have now gone into, obviously, the playoffs. So you couldn't see him kind of leaving that position. Mancini would be an interesting candidate for the job because I think he's got kind of unfinished business, and again, even though he was like he's an ex-City manager, I think he's ruthless. I don't think, there's no sentiment.
Stop talking about him. I'll never forget that day when we thought we'd won that league, and then the last seconds of the game, they won the league from us, and he was in charge. He's never coming. You can write him off the list right now.
So is he in the?
That could speak for me because that was actually my birthday that day.
Oh, you see, good man. For the sake of Mike, let's stop.
And I was going into Manchester that day. My birthday.
I'll never forget that day.
So for you, Mike, we're going to put him straight away in room 101.
I seen it actually on one of the Talk Sport pages last night that he was he was potential candidate, and I asked a couple of me City mates and that how would they feel, and they were like, he's not. It wouldn't be a bad shout. They obviously weren't too keen on him coming because they still hold him in high regard. Some of the fans and that, but they said he wouldn't be a bad shout.
It's interesting because he does. I was really. He's always been a very good manager. You could see that when he was in the Premier League, but also the way that he got that, the Italian team to press in the Euros. I think you kind of knew from the first game that they were something special, weren't they? You knew that they were going to be there or thereabouts, didn't you? Yeah. And again, it was a team that was comfortable of a way of playing. And all the way through, they were never pushing the panic buttons. Even in the final, when they went 1-0 down, they never once pushed the panic button. So,
hey Vern, I shout out to Dean, but Dean wants to chuck a name in. He's just sent me a message. He says Deschamps. So it's a similar thing where he's got the French connection. He gets a tune out of Pogba. World Cup winner.
That's a question I was going to ask you both. Actually, going to put to you both that you've just mentioned actually, and it's on my sheet about Pogba. Now the club is in a bit of disarray, so to speak, and obviously we've got Lingard and Pogba, both contracts up in the summer, and Ollie's gone. There's no at the minute. There's no plan, or there's no actual permanent manager there. Do they both stay? Does one go? Do they both go? Can you see either of them sign new deals?
I kind of feel that both of them will probably go. I think it's gone to the point. I think United now have got to the point with Pogba where if he doesn't sign and he goes, then I just see it as a natural progression. He's done his 5-6 seasons here. He's been good. He's been bad. He's never been where you think to yourself, well, he's taken the bull by the horns and he's been a talisman.
However, Vern, sorry to jump in.
It's all right.
I'm not convinced that there's an appetite for Pogba out there. You got to think he wants big money. It's his last contract. So he wants huge money. And everybody knows there's not much money out there at the moment. In relative terms, we know the Spanish league is on its knees. The French
Italian league.
Who else wants to go to PSG for crying out? So maybe. And now Ollie's gone. It's a fresh project. It's a new project. So you never know. He might decide. Well, let's just see what United are planning. It might be just.
Yeah. It depends on the manager, doesn't it? Good shout from Dean, because I think Deschamps would possibly be a good interim manager, to basically settle the ship. But also, I think the manager that has to come in has to be a manager that can sort out that defence, because they're just in such a disarray That's where he's got to start first, hasn't he, Mike?
The shout of Deschamps isn't a bad one, because I know I've seen a few people offer up Southgate as an option. Now, obviously, but Nigel's like had enough now.
Well,
so, but I think the thing is with that, with those two potential candidates, is the way you look at it is like you've just said, Vern, with Mancini. You know, they've got to go through the playoffs, so you know they've got games coming up. Whereas, you know, Deschamps and Southgate, you know, they haven't got any meaningful games, kind of, you know, till March. Is it March when the Nations League qualifiers are kind of?
Or, the only thing is Mike, Southgate an hour ago just signed a new contract.
I know that's the thing. So it's, you know, Deschamps wouldn't be a bad shout, you know, on a you know, a temporary deal, you know, to the end of the season.
So we've got Carrick in there. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if Carrick just goes on a crazy run and, you know, just far overachieves and then throws his name in, you know, because obviously either Carrick was part of the problem because he had to listen to what Ollie said and had to deliver what Ollie wanted. And maybe secretly Carrick's like a genius who, now he's got the reins, will demonstrate, you know, his thinking from. Because to be honest, he was such a great footballer with great vision. I'm amazed he doesn't see what we see. But can't you see him just going on like an amazing 15 to 20 game run now, and then we're gonna be go, oh no, Carrick,
Ollie wheel. Ollie was, you know, we need to not forget that Ollie was originally only an interim manager, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And to win 10 games on the bounce, you know, the board thought, well, hang on, let's give him a chance. I don't know if either of you had a chance to see Carrick's press conference before.
Not yet.
I made a point of watching it quickly before it came on air. And whether it's just me or obviously you guys will be able to make your own, he just looks a tad uncomfortable in front of the media. Whether that's because he's not used to being, you know, just because he's been in the background, you know, as a coach and that, but he just looks a little bit uncomfortable. Also, on the flip, he didn't give anything away. He said, you know, they asked him how long did he expect to be in the job for. He was like, you know, it could be here for a week, it could be here for 2 weeks, you know, it could be a game, 2 games, it could be 10 games. But also he come out and said that he's got the similar beliefs as Ollie, and, you know, shared the same passions as Ollie, and that. To me, that kind of led to me thinking, well, are we going to see the same kind of football, the same kind of things and ideas as Ollie, you know, brought into the club, or are we going to see some different ideas? Because watching Match of the Day too, you know, before they asked Conor Cody about, you know, what it's like when a new manager comes in, and he was like, you know, sometimes a new manager comes in and, you know, just changes the time of, you know, we have breakfast, or the time we, you know, go and do gym work, or, you know, changes a couple of drills and that, he said, and it kind of revitalizes everyone because, you know, things may have become a little bit stale.
I tell you what they usually do, Mike. The first thing any manager does when he comes in is he bans ketchup. That's what they seem to do. Do you know what I mean? That's the first thing you hear say, we can't eat ketchup at dinner time. Right. Anyway, guys, we've come to an end of a Red Shirt podcast. Obviously, there's a game tomorrow. We previewed it in the last one, but I'm going to take a score out of you. I'd like to, before we go, say a big thank you to Mike for making his Red Shirt podcast. And you're more than welcome to come back. And I hope you do, Mike, because he was a great contributor to today's show.
I'm open. Any time, obviously, I'll catch up with yourself, Vernon. We can arrange, like, you know, when's next come on.
Yeah, but brilliant. And obviously, your task next time, though, is to make sure that me and Nigel have got loads of sugary drinks.
Exactly. I was just about to say the same thing. Next time, bring one for me, mate.
Yeah. So, quick prediction for tomorrow, Mike, and then you, Nigel.
I'm gonna stick my neck on the line and say a 1-0 to United.
Okay. A Ronaldo winner?
Ronaldo winner in, I'm gonna say, the last 15 minutes. Because I think if Villarreal score first, personally, I think it could be game over because they will just sit back then and just play counter-attacking, pretty much like they did at Old Trafford. So we need the first goal.
Okay, that's
the only one.
Nigel?
Right, good. Right, I've been waiting for this question. So, in my mind's eye, what I see is Van der Beek gets a start. And was it amazing to see Sancho on the right where he's supposed to play? And is it any wonder he was just popping balls in left, right, and centre? I thought Sancho played brilliant, by the way.
Beautiful cross for the Ronaldo header for the
for the goal. Yeah. So if Carrick uses his brain, it's a free shot. He can't lose.
No pressure.
No pressure. Play Van der Beek. Play Sancho where he's supposed to be played. Yeah. Drop Maguire. Stick Bailly in there with Lindelof. Yeah. You know, again, it's a free hit. Yeah, I can see us winning 2 or 3. Okay, look, we know we're going to get battered.
That's what we want, Nigel. That's what we want.
But mate, I see the bounce. I do see the bounce, and I think, and of course, Pogba's playing, or he can play. He's available to play. Provided he's not still injured. Yeah?
No, he's injured.
He's still injured.
He's going to be out till after Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick question for you, Nigel. I know you just mentioned Bailly.
Yeah.
How about McTominay?
Playing well in the back?
Yeah,
played
there for Scotland, didn't he?
Played there a few times for Scotland, and he doesn't do a bad job for Scotland.
Well, and you'd leave Lindelof out, would you? Or would you leave Bailly out? Who would you leave out?
I'd play Lindelof as right back, actually.
I'd give Lindelof a game at right back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Wan-Bissaka needs a rest.
I'd potentially play Tellez at left back.
Oh, definitely. Tellez definitely a great shout. He's got to get in. Or maybe you play 3 at the back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it might do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So go on. So I'm expecting a good win tomorrow. I'm expecting a bounce, a reaction from the players.
Yeah, reaction. I am as well. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win as well. A 1-0 win. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll beat the Yellow Submarines. So, Nigel, quick shout out to everybody that contributed to the page last week. Some great comments this week. Yeah. Hilton Alexander, we salute you.
Yeah, thanks Anthony, for the birthday wishes as well. I passed them on.
Yeah, Anthony, great shout from you as well. Anthony, please keep them coming in. Do you know what I mean? I know you were frustrated and angry on Saturday night, and I totally feel your pain. But Anthony, you're a great supporter of the page. Do you know what I mean? And for some reason, he thinks Nigel's great. Well, I'll have to have a talk to him about that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Game knows game, man. Come on.
But yeah, so guys, please get your likes in, subscribe, and get your comments in because we're loving your comments. So, Nigel, it's love life, love football, and
eat that Ragnarok red flag flying.
See you later, guys. Thank you very much.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
The Red Shirt Podcast by Reds for Reds. Don't forget to like, follow and subscribe to the Red Shirt Podcast.